Can you tell me about the genesis of Syncada and why you've developed this solution?
I'll give you two pathways to that. One, Visa, being primarily in its history a consumer-oriented organization, understood that significant growth and opportunity was available for its banks in corporate payments. It took a couple of years to develop a strategy that led them to understand that they need to be in the full supply, the financial supply chain, in invoice processing, payments, trade financing, and information providing around those transactions. That just to be in the payments alone was really not the space that would lead to dramatic growth. While evaluating that and assessing the relationships they've had and other suppliers of such, they had to decide build or buy, or build or partner. And they have a great relationship with U.S. Bank. U.S. Bank over the previous decade had built through its product called PowerTrack just such a tool, and had developed a business that serves both corporate and public sector clients, suppliers and buyers, and gives them access to highly effective invoice processing, payment mechanisms. They can do agnostic payment, check, ACH, card, wire, etc., and allows U.S. Bank or other banks who will eventually be on the network to provide trade finance against those approved invoices. So that visibility that U.S. Bank had into that process, and the understanding and the aspirations of our friends at Visa blended nicely together. The two firms decided to form the joint venture. U.S. Bank exported the technology, the people, the patents, the customers' connections, and Visa invested some incremental funding to help continue to build out innovative new solutions for the software, and the business was born about 1.5 years ago.
How many suppliers?
There are about 16,000 suppliers that are paid consistently through the Syncada network, and about 250 to 300 corporate and public sector buyers. $20 billion of throughput annually, about half of which is being financed at this point in time.
When you look at other sort of similar financial supply chain networks, Ariba, its supplier network, they obviously have a lot more suppliers, and they've started earlier. Do you hope to sort of scale to that level?
I think that the answer will be that the likely answer is that this is going to be an exponential growth trajectory at a point in time when we have the right banks on the network and servicing their many-fold corporate clients. And our solution is focused on finding or establishing relationships with banks who will invest themselves in the process. And we're not necessarily interested to have hundreds and hundreds of banks. We like banks who will put their shoulder to the wheel and help develop the network by providing services to complementary buyers and suppliers. I wouldn't compare ourselves to Ariba. We do different things than Ariba does. We're not connected to the physical supply chain. We're not an e-procurement mechanism at all. We are focused primarily on the financial supply chain. I suggest that the technology and the investment in the physical supply chain has far surpassed that of the financial supply chain. So we'd like to provide our bank's customers an ability to track the financial flows as well or better than they do their physical flows.
It's interesting in terms of the banks that you have on board. US Bank and now Commerce Bank has also joined Syncada. I mean, they're not large global banks.
No.
I mean, why are they so interested in financial supply chain?
We'll do two sides to that coin. First, I'll talk about US Bank. They're our largest player right now. And they have a large corporate customer base as well as a public sector business. Those corporate buyers have suppliers all over the world. Being a relatively focused bank, middle America, high quality, relatively conservative, but certainly not international, they want to be able to serve effectively their clients whose sourcing processes extend them well beyond the U.S. borders. So one, Syncada can help them reach out and serve effectively others, particularly as we sign up banks who are in complementary geographies. So for example, you would find that as much volume as goes through the network now for U.S. Bank and its customers, you would find almost as much volume that is moving through Asia for those same buyers, not serviced necessarily by U.S. Bank. So we will and have developed a relationship with Asian banks who are progressing along the evaluation process so that they can then be supplier focused, signing up their suppliers who are exporters to the U.S., complementing U.S. Bank's activities. The same with Commerce Bank. Commerce Bank would see the value for the Syncada network in two ways. One, as core functionality for its customers, being able to add incremental value by reducing the cost of invoice processing, and two, providing access to a supplier base that might be out beyond its own reach or its own footprint. So a multi-bank network opens up windows of opportunity for banks to access flows and information that they wouldn't normally have. In addition, I'll add a comment about large, one might say global banks. Most of them have some measure of proprietary networks and or partnerships in place already. Those who have addressed the subject with us and who are progressing with us see us as a additional functionality. We have strengths in certain areas and certain categories of spend that might be more complicated to manage than would be managed in an ERP system. And those areas they look at as, that's a plus for them.